Hi everyone, it's Alice here. I thought I would just quickly jump on and talk about some of the main theories that we use in this unit, and hopefully you've read about some of these as you select your theory that you'll use for your first assignment. So the first theory is the sociocultural theory, which draws on the work of Vygotsky. It suggests that learning is a process that's not just in the mind of the learner. It looks at the child in a social sense. It talks about the importance of social interaction, social skills, the role of language in cognitive development, and the zone of proximal development, which refers to the distance between what the child can do by themselves and with the help of others. So that's a really great tool for teachers for group work and having the children be able to learn with and from each other. And also the more knowledgeable other comes into play in this theory in Vygotsky's work. So pairing a child with someone who's really quite knowledgeable about a topic and they can learn from them, and that allows the teacher to explore the room more freely and watch the children engage in the activities and observe, because it's just not physically possible to be around every single interaction all the time. Humanism is our next theory. This regards each person holistically rather than in separate elements such as physical, social, and psychosocial. The main elements of this theory are self-direction, self-discovery, and facilitating a safe learning environment. Two key theorists here are Rogers and Maslow, Maslow being quite famous for his hierarchy of needs and how that comes into play. So you'd have to go and do a little bit more reading about Rogers and Maslow if you wanted to look more at the humanism theory. The cognitivism theory focuses on how our internal mental processes influence our learning. So this is a really interesting one. It looks at information processing and multi-store memory model. It looks at chunking and schemas and cognitive load and metacognition. So, for example, in terms of information processing, it looks at the child's sensory memory. So being able to receive information from their environment. Is the room too stimulating? Is there too much going on? Are there smells and distractions and textual distractions that is preventing the child from being able to engage in their work? What is their working memory like? Can they remember the task at hand? Can they follow multi-step directions? Can they store information? And what is their cognitive load like? Is the task too easy or is it too hard? Because all those things can explain a child's behaviour in the classroom if they're basically checking out of the learning activity that you've planned. It's really interesting to look at those things and how they're affecting the child. Quite a few theorists who have done work on this, such as Piaget, Vygotsky, Brunner, Gardner, Sternberg, and Johnston. So again, you'd have to go back and do a bit more reading from those individual theorists if you wanted to know more about cognitivism. The psychodynamic theory draws on the work of Freud, Erikson, and Adler. That theory looks at the psychological states of the conscious and unconscious. A great analogy for this theory is the image of the iceberg. So the tip of the iceberg that you see on the surface, that's just a very small part of the child's behaviour. But if you can imagine the whole body of the iceberg underneath the surface, that encompasses needs, emotions, trauma, perhaps a crisis in the home life, or the child or adolescent is having a crisis themselves. So it's really they're all really interesting theories. This one, particularly interesting because it looks at the child's ability to communicate and regulate emotions. It's really important to have a chat to parents, a very sensitive chat about what's going on in the child's home life if you're trying to understand the child from a psychodynamic perspective. So that's another good one there. And then we've got the ecological systems theory, which largely draws on the work of Bronfenbrenner. This theory places the individual at the centre of 5 circles of influence. So we've got microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, macrosystem, and chronosystem. Now, this theory looks at obviously the influences on the child. So the first one being the microsystem, the home and family. So it looks at the child within their home life, and then it looks at, basically works the influences outwards. So neighbourhood, church, community, things like that. So it looks at all the influences on a child and how this affects the child in their day-to-day life. So another great suggestion with that theory would be to connect with the parents and talk about what's happening for that child at home if you're trying to understand them from an ecological perspective. Well, that's it from me. I just wanted to very quickly run through those theories for you this week, just for something different. I hope you found this chat useful, and I hope to talk to you more on the discussion boards. Thanks, bye.